This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
I just came back from another reality. I spent today, God, you guys are so lucky to have in your town some of the most amazing beings on this planet. And I met one of them just a few days ago. It was like some enchanted evening. Looking across the room, you see the stranger, and there you are, you fall in love. And this gentleman invited me into his sanctuary today. And whatever it was, when I first walked in, was not the same being that left. It was one of the more extraordinary experiences that I've had that has just come on a list of others that I'll share with you, of total, irrevocable transformation like this. And he's with us tonight, and you're very lucky to have him in your midst. His name is Lawrence Katz. Most of you, I'm sure, know him. But
I love being in Ashland.
to meet him with his llamas is one thing, and to meet him with Love, that beautiful little dog, is another. To actually experience the sanctuary and the vibrations that come through there, I'm not that easily impressed. But I think he nailed me to the wall. So I found out when I just gave a talk at Mount Shasta at WESAC, and I had a brand new opening that I love. Hello, my name is Jean-Claude, and I'm a loveaholic. And I've been on the wagon far too long. And I am going to re-embrace my addiction. In fact, I did a few nights ago. And I'm going to invite all of you to join me. And if we get this right and really become totally addicted to love, we can take this across the entire planet. If we do that, then all the other side issues that we want to play with, that we think are so important, bless all the wonderful people who do it. I don't mean to minimize it. Yeah, I do. Going from global warming to peace, to ecology, to wars, to all that stuff falls away. Once we really experience the essence of oneness, all these issues become non-issues. They're impossible. And we were teasing today, I think, someday you're going to have old archives of old dictionaries to take a look at what the concept of peace was, because what else is there? You cannot have all of this. And it all begins inside of you. So we're going to play with that journey. And I think talking about it, for example, here's a beautiful glass of water. We can discuss the molecular structure of water for hours. It's quite fascinating. In fact, you can even look at some of Professor Emoto's beautiful diagrams of the water crystals. We can talk about the 108 degrees of the bonding patterns and the forces that hold them together, and the surface tension and the clarity and all sorts of things. Nothing compares to going like this. And so is it with love. So much has been written and spoken about love ad nauseum. And wouldn't it be nice if tonight we could take the vibrations of this room and raise it sufficiently for each of us, provided we wish, can experience what the quotient of love would be like in the next paradigm when we all join as one. Is that a worthwhile thing? Okay. Here, okay. It's tricky because it's going to require you, somebody said tonight, God, I wish I could bilocate. It's going to require you to bilocate. You'll have to have the part of you that walked in stay here, while another part sort of emerges. The part of you that came here is wrought, defined by all sorts of stuff that make things important. Your sex, your religion, your political persuasion, stuff that you like to do, all the things that if you wrote down in a CV, what do you call it, a bio? A bio, curriculum vitae, all the things about you that define you to the world, and ultimately, unfortunately, to yourself, need to be put away. Beliefs are wonderfully glorious things. They will take you wherever the belief tells you to go. They also define for you the absolute boundaries, the walls of your prison. So whatever belief you have, you're going to have to give that to the old you that's going to sit in the chair that which you first came in. And we're going to have to access another part that's free of that. And that's not so easy to do. So bear with me for a second. We'll just do a little fun thought poem exercise. Close your eyes for a moment. Begin to focus on your breath. And just be aware of sitting here. Take the events of the day from the time you came into this room and wind them backwards, like you were winding a film backwards. Just recall walking in here, where you had the last meal, where you parked the car, what you did in the afternoon, what lunch was like, what you did in mid-morning. Doesn't have to be in great detail. Just get the idea of moving backwards through the day to the point that you're getting out of bed, waking up. And now return here to watch your breath and allow a vision to flow into your mind's eye of some place in nature that calls to you. It could be by the seashore or a beautiful mountain meadow, a bubbling brook, canyons, whatever feels extremely safe and wonderful. And imagine in your mind's eye now that there's a door frame, not a door, just the outside frame of a door. And you can peer through it, but what you see is a shimmering. And you realize that it's a very high energetic vibration. You're not quite ready to walk through it yet. And just to the right of the door frame is a beautiful carved wooden chest that is open. And you look inside, and inside the chest it's lined with satin. It's soft. And one by one, you lay into that chest all of your beliefs, all of your preconceived ideas, all of your sense of identity, all the things that mark you as being vital and important within the illusion. Just place them there. And know that they're going to be totally, completely safe. At the end of this little journey, you can come back to this chest at any time and pick up any one of the beliefs that still serve you. When you feel totally disencumbered, is that the word we use in English? When you've gotten rid of all these wonderful things, you'll feel a lightness of being about you, of just a pure energy, almost formless. Allow that being to drift through the frame of the door into the shimmer, into the energy, and feel yourself surrounded by that energy. Like Alice stepping through the looking glass into a completely different world. And in that energy, just allow yourself to emerge back into the room and be here. And let me share with you a remarkable journey that goes way, way back 6 weeks. Or 5, I've lost count. I was speaking, or scheduled to speak, at an expo in San Diego, the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo. I did 3 of them in a row. And I was carrying my stuff into the expo hall, and I found my wife, Ariane, who's sitting back there, talking to a gentleman with a beard. And she said, come here, come here, come here. She introduced me to Renan Shahar. Renan is an Israeli who practices something in the US, but was a co-teacher with her for NAET in Belgium. And they became fairly friendly. And Renan said, come, I've got to do this thing for you. What is this thing? I'm going to readjust your C1. You ever see one? We all see one. C1, it turns out, is called the atlas vertebrae. It's the one immediately under the skull. And it turns out that 99.9% of the people on this planet have the atlas out to the right-hand side, almost invariably. So he was from Israel, and I said, no. He said, no, you should have it done. And I said, why? He said, well, you'll see. So, being a trusting soul, I'll talk later about the 3 words, but my first word is curiosity. Believe me, I'm curious. I could not resist. When the universe sends something my way, the answer is, yeah, I'm going to try it. So he sat me down, he felt my atlas, and then he takes out this little impeller that's run electrically, go boom, 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 boom. It doesn't feel very comfortable, but after a while it dislodged, and he realigned it. When he did, there was a rush of energy going up my spine. This, unfortunately, was 5 minutes before I was going to do a talk. I was vintage gibberish. People came to me afterwards and said, Jean-Claude, I haven't got any idea of what you said, but I think it's felt good. And I think after Lawrence's treatment today, you're not going to have any idea of what I say, and may it feel good. Well, what happened after this was extremely interesting, because this unleashes a whole set of events, the way the universe works. If you step back and don't use your mind to guide you through life, and just allow the flow to carry you, we all talk about it, but if you actually do it, the most extraordinary, synchrodestinies that Deepak Chopra likes to use, the most extraordinary things seem to unfold. You meet these people across the room, your eyes lock, you know you found a brother. Whatever it might be, this particular process transported me like you cannot believe. With this rush that came down of energy, that still is moving fully, flowing, a totally different being emerged from the table that had this particular process done. Came the information that the C1 was deliberately put out as a genetic imprint for humans in this density. Ooh. So I'm going, says who? So I called a friend of mine, Winfrey, you might know him. He's the author of the book, The Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. And he, through some people he works with, a lady he works with, does a channeling of a group called the Elohim. And I've read some of their stuff, and I'm particularly impressed with their material. And I called up Win, who's a good friend, and I said, bro, got a favor to ask of you. I'm asking him a lot of favors recently. Yeah. I want you to talk to the guys and tell me what this C1 business is all about. And after about 10 days, he said, whoa. You are not only right on, but wait till you hear the story. Anybody read Zecharia Sitchin's works? Familiar with him at all? He talks about a group called the Anunnaki, A-N-N-A-N-U-K-I. Apparently they were people here with ill will and not the highest intentions some 30,000 years ago. It was they who were using what was then the human race as slave labor to do whatever kind of mining or stuff that they needed on the planet. It was they who did the genetic imprinting, according to him. That was the story. Now, all of us need to have this C1 taken care of if we're going to take this full flow of energy. The problem is, the process that was done for me is a process called Atlas Prophylax, A-T-A-L-A-S, P-R-O-F-I-L-A-X. If you look it up on the internet, you will find it. It comes out of Switzerland, and it's now in a bunch of different countries. And throughout all of the United States, there are 2 practitioners, both of whom are in California. We met one. And then the way the universe works, so you understand synchronicity and how it plays in like this. Theodore, and I don't remember his last name, Theodore Heron or something along those lines, came to our house 2 days before we went up to Mount Shasta last week. And I said, explain the process to me from your perspective. And he does. Very, very biomechanical. And I said, well, what's the story here? No, it's very, very good. You have it and you'll see the energies flow better. I said, you're holding back, aren't you? Cheshire cat. I said, what's the rest of the story? He says, no, it's biomechanical. I said, look, we don't know each other well enough to have a real discourse here. Let me tell you my version of the story. And I give him this thing. And he looks at me and says, how do you know? And I said, well, this is how I know. He said, that's exactly what I was told as well. Now, when 2 pieces of information come from different sources like this, I'm like, you can't believe this. Fast forward. 3 weeks ago, I'm at the Mind, Body, Spirit Expo in Seattle. And I do my little talk, and it's very, very lovely. And you know how each being puts out an aura? Now, there are people who can look at auras and say, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're pink and gold and stuff. I don't see diddly. But there was this one person in the audience, and she was lit up like a Christmas tree. I've never seen this before. She was pure, absolute emanation. And all you could see was almost a quiver of being inside of this, like she wasn't here at all. And, you know, we sort of had this energetic thing. That was the end of that story. And at the end, I went to the back and I signed a bunch of books for people. And she caught my eye and she went like this. And she came over and we talked. And the first subject that came up was C1. She just had it done. Apparently, Network Chiropractic can have it done as well. There seems to be one or two. And you have a lady here that I was told about in town, Irina. I don't know her name. Anybody know her? Erin. Yes. Apparently she does network. I have no idea whether she's skilled in the C1 or not. But definitely take a look at the possibility. Just have yours checked to see if it's out. It may not be out now. 99.9% of the people had them out as of a week ago. Yours may not be out now. And now, was it Paul Harvey? And now for the rest of the story. This lady turned out to be an angel on earth that emanated a level of love that we all aspire to. And in the course of our conversation, she said to me, I was allowed to go to heaven without having to die. Do you want to know what it was like? She has the ability to hold you, to hug you, and transport you to that level of beauty that absolutely blew my circuits. And I said, do me a favor. Do us all a favor. Can you drop everything and come to WESAC and give this to all the people that will be in attendance? And she agreed. So she came down to this WESAC that was just now done in Mount Shasta. And she was going to be part of the ceremony that gave this energy to all the people that were there. One of the problems is you really can't receive this energy and hold it with C1 being out. So we had a beautiful horse and a beautiful cart, but they were bass-ackwards. So I'm going there, I said, I now know why my card in the tarot is the Fool. Here I am, stepping off the cliff, not having a clue, not even knowing that the universe is talking to me, just trusting that this is the flow. The keynote speaker at Shasta is a Dr. Zhigang Shah, an MD, Qigong master, and if I'm to believe what actually happened there, one of the extraordinary healers on the planet. And he comes up and does the ceremony the night before I speak, and people get fantastic healings. I mean, it's almost as if you're watching Benny Hinn, but with a bit more reverence. And I'm impressed. And I decide that what I'm going to do in my talk, since I'm preceding him immediately, I'm talking on Saturday night, and then we're going to do the love bug business on Sunday night with Nina. That I was going to challenge Dr. Shah in his next talk to do the C1 for everybody in attendance. Makes sense, right? That afternoon, we're having lunch, serendipitously, synchrodestinically. He walks into the same restaurant, and I say, Dr. Shah, Master Shah, here's my vision. And he looks at me, and he says, I will do something better. Let me know when during your talk you would like this done. I will come and do it for everybody in the room. My talk came, the moment came. Apparently, he had discourse with his divine guides who said, you mustn't do this for the room. This is a gift to be given tonight to the 6+ billion people on planet Earth. And he did whatever he does to send it out. Now, not all the people apparently would get it done immediately, but it's all in the process of being done. I'm not a chiropractor. If there's a chiropractor here that can do some checking later, that would be fun. But from what I could feel, because you can really feel it when C1 is out, what I could feel is that at least 50% of the people that I touched, and Ariane, who's much more gifted at this than I, confirmed that at least half the people that we palpated, is that the technical word where we pushed our fingers in, were actually fully aligned. So what a miracle. If we've done that, then we've really done a gift to this planet, if that actually happened. And then he did something more extraordinary. He was instructed to send out the love to anchor this, to anchor the C1, not only to everybody here, not only to everybody on the planet, but to every sentient soul in creation. And I'm going, whoa. He did the process, and here's what came in for me. I felt a wave of gratitude coming in from the cosmos to this planet, unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Every other contact that was made with the off-planet stuff was, hey guys, what can you do for me? This is the very first time I experienced a palpable reversal of the flow where our planet returned the favor to the cosmos. And I felt, God, it's so tough now. The language is so inadequate to some of these feelings. It was cheering and gratitude and festivities of some different vibration. I don't know how to put this into words. To such an extent that there was a wave that came over me that changed me in the following way. And this for me is no small change. Until 3 days ago, I felt as if I was racing against an unknown barrier. You know, we all look at the change on December 21st, 2012, the Mayan calendar. I've always secretly felt that was a bit optimistic. I didn't know when the massive shift was going to come, and I didn't know how much time I had left to do whatever it was I was here to do, and when I even was going to really find out what it was I was going to do, and always felt a great sense of urgency. And I greeted each day with the feeling that this may be my last day to perform whatever it is I needed to do. When that event was over, there was no sense of urgency. I felt as if mission accomplished in some incredible way, that what we needed to do for this planet now had been done. Not that there's not a lot of work, not that we don't continue. I will still continue as energetically as I did before, but minus the urgency. I'll still chop wood and carry water and speak to as many people as will sit and listen to me and share as much love as I know how to share. When Theodore came to my house, the other gentleman who worked with the C1, I said, what is it like to have the C1 out? What is it we were experiencing? He said, imagine living in an environment, a house that you couldn't leave. Our lifetime, the illusion, the house you can't leave. Knowing or thinking there was a gas leak. What an uncomfortable existence. Constantly looking for the gas leak. No wonder we're paranoid. How clever were the Anunnaki to do this to us? Now we have to be docile, and we have to look outwards. We have to go to any kind of belief system to give us some sort of freedom from the gas. What a difficult thing. So having this freed was rather magical. So have it checked, if not, have it put in. It appears to be very easy to do now where it wasn't before. And you will experience a complete, it's almost as if you were looking at something in black and white and someone turned on the color, you're listening to something in monaural sound, and all of a sudden you had THX or whatever the new thing is, Dolby. All of your consciousness moves out that way. So this is just the background of what's been going on for the last 5 weeks. And it's going on with such a rate of acceleration that I cannot even imagine what next week is going to be like anymore. You know, it's easy to say there's a quickening. And there's a quickening. Things are rushing, things are speeding up. But I cannot grasp the rate at which this is happening and the process that I had with Lawrence and the freedom that I'm beginning to feel and just a straight column of energy that's accessible to each of us. So now we're going to deal, now that we've set the stage for all of this, we'll deal with a few small questions. Who are you? Why are you here? What is here? How is here created? Why was it created? And what is it we're meant to do? What is actually happening right now? In order to view this fully and to begin to appreciate at the heart level, not the head level, some of the nonsensical words I'm going to say, we have to take a look at the way we view God. We've been deliberately programmed so cleverly in a way very similar to what the Anunnaki did to us, to view God in a particular manner. But before I get into this, I have to do some CYA stuff that the attorneys insist on. And it goes as follows. Nothing I say is true. If it could be put in words or written, trust that it is not truth. If it holds you as a concept you want to identify with, you're making a terrible mistake. The last thing I ever want you to do is to agree with me. And I say that in all sincerity. The last thing I ever want you to do is to trade one set of beliefs for another. All of the words, all the things that I'm speaking about tonight, at best are smoke and mirrors and misdirection that will allow our minds a playground while our hearts connect.
Very good.
So, with that caveat, I will proceed to tell you all the truths of mythology. God. Most religions would have us believe that God is the creator, the artist, making the creation of our universe. All the things we see, the stars in the firmament, the galaxies that flow out to the hundreds of billions, all the souls that we have, every tree, every rock is a creation of the creator. Yes? That's a familiar myth. Implicit in that little story is separation, the artist and his work. So insidiously present that we can never again tear ourselves away from it if we hold on to that belief system. Buckminster Fuller said in passing, God, it seems to me, is a verb. As I like to say, well, Bucky, God, it seems to me, is a verb too. We now know where God, the noun, takes us. Do you know how many religions and denominations there are on our planet at the present time? 10,500 different ways of looking at it and the creation. And each of them creating explicit separation on the planet. Not implicit, explicit separation. The cause of atrocities beyond measure. A blasphemy to the entire concept of creation. Let's hold that concept and put it here. God the noun. Now let's take God the verb. Where does it take us? Is it another cul-de-sac, or does it open up some entirely new set of possibilities that will allow our thinking to branch out into areas that were completely inaccessible to us before? Well, let's see. God the verb. It is not that God is in all things, because that's separation. It is rather that God is all things. No small difference. Water. There is nothing in all creation, manifest or no, which is not an aspect of the all that is. Everything, driven by the curiosity to know itself more fully, is an aspect of the oneness. When you speak, when you crawl, it is God speaking and crawling. When you listen, it is God's ear listening. There is nothing in creation which is not you. You are an aspect of the oneness, consciousness, projected into an illusion to experience what it would be like, to forget who you really were, lose contact with the oneness, the vast cosmic hologram, have both your hands tied behind you, your eyes blinded, and experience duality and polarity on this roller coaster of emotion. What a grand game. But it's 10 o'clock and it's way past your bedtime. And it's time to put the game away and go to sleep. But it's not happening. It's not happening. Now, this is the situation on Earth. What is the situation in our galaxy? Imagine, if you would, a vast clock here representing the Milky Way galaxy. There's a central sun at the hub, just that there is at the hub where the hands spin in a clock. That central sun is called a black hole. It is a point of such extreme, dense consciousness. It is the point of emanation of creation, and on the other side, it flows out through the white hole of creation, and into it, all creation flows. Don't view it as extremely dense matter. That's where our physicists fall apart. All they have is the concept of matter, space, and time to play with. View it rather as the density of consciousness. We are a fragment of consciousness in the third density. We'll get to that later. Moving back to the fullness of the eighth density to re-emerge into the black hole, to come out the other side in a new universe. I got it, yes. And re-experience this in a brand new way again, as we're experiencing it now simultaneously. So if you hold on to your concepts of linear time, then you're really going to hear some good gibberish. Gibberish. So we're back to the clock. Our solar system is spinning around this galaxy at incredible speeds, just as we are whirling around our sun. And we're just about ready to hit the 12 o'clock point of a major shift. And just the minute hand is virtually at the 12, the second hand is virtually at the 12, and there's a tiny sliver still left to traverse. You with me? Tiny, 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 tiny. That sliver has within it supremely dense programmed consciousness to trigger the shift. Now, when you take an energy field and pass it through an energy field, it has vast interaction and interference patterns and causes all sorts of upsets. Notice what's happening on the planet right now. There's no way to put a lid on this pressure cooker. We are all experiencing it. There's some wonderful expressions that I can't use because we're on camera. We either have to do it, fish or cut bait, that's the other way to say it. Politically correct. We have to make a real decision now. We're either going to go with this flow or not. All over the universe, every single planet is experiencing major geological shifts. Both Uranus and Neptune have had major shifts of their magnetic poles. The heliosphere, which precedes the sun, it's sort of like an energetic field. And at the very, very end, the plasma, where it hits the consciousness of space, glows. And you can measure the glow. The glow of that field has increased by 1,500% over the last few decades. Our Schumann magnetic resonance is moving up from the 7.8 that it's been forever to 8, drifting up towards 13, it would appear. Our magnetic pole is drifting at a very, very interesting rate to the southwest, down towards Siberia. So much so that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Agency, has had to renumber our runways. When you see a number 9 on a runway or 27, that's 90 degrees or 270 degrees. It goes to the nearest 10th degree so the pilots can align it on their magnets. But their magnets now are so far off that they had to renumber the runways. So it's not that the shift is coming. I don't want to give that impression at all. We're smack dab in it. Now, it became very obvious to us at the higher levels of us that this planet, the parts of us that were on the planet of the oneness, were in deep trouble. We were so mired in the illusion that it was very unlikely we would waken in time to make the shift with the Earth, as was intended. So 70 million of us, primarily from the sixth density, and just hold on to that as a concept. Earth, by the way, is the third density, so you get an idea how far. It's further removed in consciousness from us, as we are from a grain of sand. Further. in a hierarchical differential of consciousness. We, having nothing better to do, decided in pure love to take incarnation on this planet as a human. We are called wanderers, light workers, star seeds, planetary servers, good guys, whatever you want to call us. We're here in total love just to anchor the ability of shift onto the planet. We don't have to do anything, although many of us think we do. What is important is that we manifest this degree of love and consciousness within ourselves. If we do, remarkable things happen around us. Have you ever met a person who was such an embodiment of love that whenever you went into his or her presence, you came out radiating with a net energy gain? Yes? Have you ever met a person who did just the opposite? What if we could all become the former? And we never, ever leave a situation unchanged without giving it a net energy gain. Nothing is taken casually. Every single aspect of creation is the Messiah. Whether it's a flower that we acknowledge, a sunset, another being, a dog, a child, we leave it with a net energy gain. Every solution, every situation that we're in, we bless it with love. And that person comes out prancing. I had a gift once when I was very young. I was walking in New York City. I could have been in my late teens or early 20s. And at that time, they were parking cars in buildings that had elevators that brought them up and down. And this exquisite being of a lady was there waiting for her car. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and her face lit up with the most beatific smile that warms me to this day. Never spoke to her, never stopped, but I carry that smile with me for the rest of my life. What a gift. That lady, name I don't know the first thing about her, don't even want to, irrevocably changed the direction of my life with a single smile. Imagine what you could do if you consciously held that energy. Back in the 50s, I think there was a young man, a medical student by the name of Roger Bannister, who decided the myth about the 4-minute mile was just that. He was going to shatter that, and he trained very hard to do it. He worked, God, this was a total dedicated mission of training, to the point where he ran the first sub-minute mile in 3 minutes 59 point something seconds, and he collapsed after the finish line. The next week, every world-class miler broke 4 minutes. They didn't have to train. The training was required to break the belief system. I saw the same phenomenon. I actually saw it on a Wild World of Sports went through a period where everything to them was a sport. You could drop off the back of a moving truck wearing leather pants with some metal on it, and the guy who slid the furthest was the winner. But they had an event that was really interesting where you were taking a motorcycle straight up a mountain, and whoever could get the furthest would be the winner. They'd mark where far you could go. And it was so steep that nobody could make it. So they'd make it, they'd fall, they'd make it, they'd fall, they'd make it, they'd fall. One guy went to the top. All of them got back on their bikes and went to the top. Are you getting the message? So what we consider to be impossible is simply that. It's a consideration. It's the stuff that we put into that chest. The earth itself is a sentient being. She has weathered 6.45 billion little monsters running on her back, putting out the worst possible imaginable energies long enough. She is now almost completely moved into the fourth density. It simply is a fact of this part of the universe that the geometry of the fourth density, which is quite different from the geometry of the third, cannot support. Early fourth density planets cannot support third density life. Each being on this planet will be given the choice of moving on or revisiting the third density experience on another planet in another sector of the universe. There's nothing great about making the transition to the fourth. In fact, you cannot make the transition if you're not ready. Because what you're moving into is a completely different spectrum of light, frequency of light. If you can't take that frequency, you'll recoil. No part of you would want to go there. Your ego can't take you. Either the light embraces you and you embrace the light, or you just get pulled away like a sieve, just get combed out, and you stay with the third density and you continue. No big deal. So now let us talk about, for a moment, how's our time? We're fine. We have 2 hands full of minutes. 10. Thank you. We'll talk about the densities for a few moments, because they are who you are at all the levels of consciousness that you move through simultaneously. Very paradoxical. We all like to think of things happening in a linear manner. Enjoy the thought. From creation, you move out to the first density, which is air, earth, fire, water, the mineral kingdom, basically. And there you have vast sections of mineral holding a consciousness. And there they sit. Imagine what it's like to be a mountain range. There you sit for eons. Not quite, yeah, eons, yeah. Billions of years. Feeling the warmth of the sun, the cold of the night. The warmth of the sun, the cold of the night. The wash of waves, of rain. Whatever you feel. Finally you say, my God, I'm feeling. I must have something that can record feeling. The moment that that group entity is aware that it holds consciousness, that is the lesson it must learn there, and experience what it is like to awake to the fact that it has consciousness. What an extraordinary realization. At that point, that group soul is ready to move into the second density, which are the dual columns of the plant and animal kingdom, neither one being higher than another. People who love plants know how incredible they are as individuals. You can read The Secret Life of Plants, I think Baxter's book, on how they talk to each other. They signal, they can read your mind. And they've done tests, for example, on a plant with an e-meter, which measures the electrical resistance of an organism. And they put 2 little clips on it. And then if you tear a leaf, you watch the needle jump like this. And Baxter had the thing hooked up. And he said, I wonder how the plant's going to react if I burn a leaf with a cigarette. A thought. And it reacted like that. A thought. And there's all sorts of cases of, in New England, we used to have a gypsy moth that would come every 7 years and just mischievous little guys. And eat their way through the whole trees. And the trees found a way of putting out some sort of chemical barrier to that. But what happened, as soon as a tree put it out, the whole forest put it out, as soon as the first one did it. So we're talking a lot about the 100th monkey concept. Are you all familiar with that? Anyone not? May all the world become Ashland. May Ashland become all the world. God, I feel like I'm talking to the choir here. How beautiful is that? And here again, they're holding the consciousness as a herd, as a forest, as a lawn. It's very, very much of a group soul. And then you've got the Richard Bach phenomenon of Jonathan Livingston Seagull, where one bird moves out of the flock and realizes, my God, not only am I consciousness, but I'm individuated consciousness. Any plant or animal that's been in a lot of contact with a third density being, us, learns of its own individuated consciousness. And it is now separate, bless you, it is now separate from all of its other herds or flocks or forests. That realization brings them ready to become a third density being. That's what the humans are. This is the first level of which we're allowed to use our consciousness and this theoretical concept that we're just beginning to touch, called free will, to become co-creators. And here, the lessons are very, very interesting. There are 2 things we need to do. First is we have to learn how to use the energy. There is only one energy of creation. When they say love is all there is, what they really mean is love is all there is. Now, becoming sufficiently refined in your understanding of that depends on your level of enlightenment. So you can hold the mental concept of love is all there is. When you actually get it, there are no other words to say it, but you have it in a whole brand new way. And then that will mark a new beginning from which you can go deeper and rediscover it again in a whole brand new way. And again and again and again until you merge back into the eighth density and you are all that is. So our job is to figure out how to use this love energy. There's only two vectors. This is not rocket science. Either you use it in service to others or in service to self. So you either walk the light, positive path, the dark, negative path. One is not better than the other. One is far more difficult, but not better. Creation wants to experience itself infinitely. Here we know good and bad. There, hey, all the same. All the same. The negative path is an extremely difficult path to walk. There you have to be not only an adept, but an unusually gifted adept. In all of history, there are very few people on this planet who are supremely dark enough and dedicated enough to walk the negative path. You're looking at a Rasputin or a Genghis Khan or a Taras Bulba. Hitler was not. Hitler was an idealist. Himmler was very dark. No comparison. So there are a few very, very dark people. I suppose there's some around right now. I don't know who they are. And they're not the people we point fingers at. Those are puppets. There, 95% of every thought, every word, every deed had to be to control others for benefit of self. That's a very seriously difficult path to walk. And thank you for doing it. I don't have to do it. To walk the positive path, only slightly over 50%, say 51%, of every thought, every word, every deed has to be to benefit another being. We're not there. The vast pool of consciousness may be at 60%, 73%, whatever the number is, but it lies in between and can't move. So it is stuck and not harvestable. The second area that keeps us stuck in this density that we have to overcome is we have to learn to balance our chakras. All information that we receive comes up from the root chakra, which is our survival chakra, on up, and it keeps moving until it meets the first blockage, which means for all intents and purposes it stops here. When you feel separation, you're concerned about personal survival. So everything that you receive gets blocked in the lower chakras. And then, if you're cool, you make a lot of money, and you figure out how to take care of this stuff, lo and behold, you're into sex in a big way. You're now in your second chakra. And then you move into your concept of self-worth and all the other emotional issues that come. And you very rarely can get into to the area of the heart. The chakras don't have to be strengthened, they have to be balanced. So one of the lessons that we have to learn on this planet is how we balance the chakras. Please don't leave tonight before learning how to do that. When you do, please come and tell me. No, I'm kidding. I will definitely get into later exactly how to do that. Can we rush through the densities quickly? Yes. The fourth density, when we do those two things, we can hold sufficient light to move into the next density. The next density is the Christ density, the density of love and compassion. That is where Master Jesus came from to serve. And it is the density to fully explore unconditional love and compassion. The problem with unbridled, unconditional love and compassion, when it's put into action on a third density planet, it almost invariably leads to martyrdom. So when that is fully learned and the being is ready to move on to the fifth density, it moves on to the density that countervails, that counterbalances. Imagine a seesaw, and you've got all this heavy love, compassion here. You need something to balance it. And loving compassion is offset by the gift of wisdom. When you bring wisdom together with love and compassion, you now serve in a completely different way. You're no longer raking the cat. You're into something where you're not trying to fix the world. You have a great sense of wisdom of the purpose of experience. That is the fifth density. The sixth density is the unity density, based at the bottom of the triangle with love, wisdom, and rising up to power. When you put that together, you're in the density of manifestation. When you use those three together. The book Going Deeper talks about a particular exercise you can do and a way to view each of these angles from the point of view, from the perspective of the other angles. What you see when you do that will blow you apart. I can't take you through that because I will never tell someone what they're going to see. This is your own trip, your own individual journey, but I'll meet you on the other side. That is where the negative path and the positive path meet in service to all, is the sixth density. The seventh density is the gateway density. That is the area of vibration where you're very, very close, you're extremely dense, and you give up all concern of all other creation. You take the essence of everything you've experienced, the quintessence, the pith, and you put it together in a little ball, and you pass it back to your sixth density self. That is your higher self. That is as close as you will ever get as a human being to God. You want source? Congratulations, you're it. Stop being outside referential and ask inside to be connected to your higher self. You cannot get a higher source of information than that. That is who you are at the highest possible level of communication. From the seventh density, the gateway density, you merge back into the eighth, into the black hole, into the creator, and then in a timeless manner. It's not measured, it's not simultaneous, it's not after a while, it doesn't exist in our language. Part of you returns to this octave of creation, part of you moves through the black hole into a white universe in a brand new area of experience. Now that you have this trip, realize that you're doing all of them simultaneously. Take a break and chew on that for a while. And then we'll have fun. Where our physicists are running into a lot of difficulty in trying to find physical answers to metaphysical concepts is, what they have to do now to create string theory and a lot of the other dances they have to do to find unified field theories, when if they just accept the concept of consciousness. So if you review God not as the creator or the Big Bang as the creator, but as that consciousness pervading all intelligence throughout the cosmos being self-directed. Now let's visit a real argument that's taking place as we speak throughout America, the concept of evolution versus creation and what's happening in schools. From a noun standpoint, that's quite an argument. Two very opposing forces. From the verb standpoint, ha ha ha, we're saying the same thing. Now you have a species which is fully conscious, that's curious, and self-directing. Is that creation? Absolutely. Is that evolution? Absolutely. So it's crevolution, big deal. Let's all go to McDonald's, have whatever we're going to have, and move on. We're saying the same thing. You understand that little insidious concept of viewing God as the noun tears us asunder and makes all the separation. There is no way to even look at peace with that concept. If you recognize the valid existence of opposing factions, peace cannot happen. You can create détente, but not peace. So we're looking at the oneness, and black holes are certainly a way to do it. Black holes come about from the point of creation. I had an experience once that I will probably not go to very willingly again because I almost got lost in it. And the only saving grace was I was leading a group in meditation at the time, and I was using a particular breathing technique. Beware of Greeks bearing breathing techniques. This one I kind of made up in my own little mind, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. It sounded to me like it would be incredibly powerful. Holy Toledo, was it powerful. It got me beyond any place my mind could go. There I was. So I wasn't in the void. I was beyond something that was so complete that it was nothing. Now, go there and try to formulate a single thought. You know, like when you make rock candy, you put a piece of string in it, it begins to coalesce around the string. There has to be something to pull a thought into. There was nothing. Way over here was a little voice saying, Turkey, you got a group out here with you. And it was that little voice that became the string that allowed me to coalesce a thought. When I came back, I now sat back again in my mind's eye in the absolute, total, complete void. And I asked myself, in the perfection of nothing, whatever prompted anything to begin to coalesce, to even form a thought or intention? I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that. I cannot even conceive of what there is in addition to the infinite pond that would cause a single ripple. It was a dilemma that even to this day, I just look at and say, I don't have the capacity, being here, to see that. It cannot be done for me. And so, I look at the mythology that comes, as one young lady said to me now, very, very much. I owe a great debt of gratitude in my thinking to a group in the early 80s in Louisville, Kentucky, called LL Research. And they put out a book back then called The Law of One. It was given to Ariane and to me, Ariane, my wife, when we were working in Israel back in 1985 by a doctor, a medical doctor who was attending one of our healing groups. And he said, Jean-Claude, I think you need to read this. And it was saddle-stitched and, 8.5 by 11 size, self-published kind of things. And I read it. Imagine, put yourself in the mind's eye of Sleeping Beauty, being pricked by whatever it was. You're now in your 100-year sleep. Comes the prince, kisses you, and you awaken after 100 years. That's what I experienced. So profound for me personally was the resonance of this particular material. Every part of me began to vibrate like this. And Ariane tells me that I was completely made nonsensical moves and sounds for 2 weeks until two very talented healers from England came across and repositioned my molecules. I don't know what they did, but I'm able to speak again. So profound was that gong within me. That particular teaching was a channeling done by Carla Ruckert, who was a deep trance channel. Don Elkins at the time was the questioner. He has since died. And Jim McCarty was the scribe, the three of them together. Highly intelligent people creating the energy for this to happen. And for Carla to reach the information coming in from Ra, it was sixth density information. This is not something one does casually. She was in deep trance, had no idea what she was talking about. And only by rereading the transcripts had any idea of what was done. And Don, bless him, an incredibly intelligent man, a physicist as well as a pilot for Eastern Airlines, was asking the most incredibly incisive, to the point, intelligent questions that just brought out the most amazing archetypal information. And what came out of this was the mythology on which Going Deeper and my talk hangs. A mythology so broad that every single teaching I've ever come across since hangs elegantly upon it. So vast is it. So from the oneness, the first distortion, that's their word, the first breakaway from the oneness was free will. Free will, needing an energy to work with, was given the infinite sea of love. That vibration of love is so pure that when you slow it down, it becomes light. When you slow down light, it becomes matter. With the intention of the sublogoi, the black holes, came all of creation. Now, creation, as we view it, is manifestation. It's subject to an extremely simple cosmic law. You may think you have tremendous powers. There's only two things in reality you can do. you only have two assets at your disposal. One is your attention, the other is your intention. Wherever you put your attention on creates that level of reality. Wherever you put your intention with your attention changes that level of reality. And the formula is simple. A plus I equals M, manifestation. With your attention, your intention, you create manifestation. If you don't put counter-intention and counter-attention by deflecting it, it has to work instantly. It's the way it is. So now if you move into your heart, into that heart energy, and you use this simple law, everything about you becomes like this. You have to realize first who you are. The book Going Deeper, which I gather quite a few people here have read, and we have a few copies if people do want to be thrilled to sign it afterwards, was an amazing teaching for me. I had tremendous plans of writing this book, and I wrote all sorts of wonderful notes. You know the expression, when man plans, God laughs? They were totally irrelevant. I sat down, and when it was clear that I made the commitment to sit down at 7:30 every morning and write till 9 o'clock every morning, and that was crystal clear, they came. They came. I had no idea what came, but it was definitely a part of me entering and taking over the fingers. And it became a complete download where the character, because it's written in a fictional, very funny type of setting, very irreverent setting for those of you who read it, know it. And I became intertwined. We were going through the same experiences. My questions were the character's questions. The character's lack of understanding was my lack of understanding. The other explanations that came in was to clear it up for both of us. When the character had an experience of death, within hours, I got a call from my urologist telling me I had prostate cancer. We were going through the same thing. And so it was, for him, a 2.5-day adventure, for me, 9 months. He apparently was much smarter than I was. Because what would happen is if I didn't fully grasp the teaching, and they were evasive, they were very elusive teachings, then the universe would play out in my so-called everyday life the lessons I would need to understand fully at the heart level what the character was going through. And the teaching was simple. Learn to think with your heart and love with your mind and go on with your life and go out to evolve. So you are beings called wanderers, light workers, star seeds. How do you tell who you are? Almost all of us exhibit the same symptoms. We feel as if this is not our real home, that we're here on lend-lease, or we're here just to do a job. We look at the stars wistfully. Most of us are much more comfortable with children and animals than we are with most adults. A lot of us suffer with untold allergies. When I first met Ariane, I was allergic. They tested me. I went to a dermatologist. The only thing that he had in his little testing kit that I didn't throw up a wheel with the transdermal was saline solution. We don't vibrate in the way Earth is. And we all have this gnawing feeling that we've come here to do something. Those mark us. We stand out. I've always been, since a little child, a stranger in a strange land. And I suspect if something has happened in your life to draw you to Ashland, it's because, bless you, that you too have felt in your other environments a stranger in a strange land. And this evokes for you, as it does for me, a sense of home. Yeah? A sense of completion. You're here to support each other. The word community is totally inadequate. We're team members. We're here to shift the vibration of the planet. We're in the shift right now. This is what we've come to do. Get on with it. It's that simple. Yes. It really is that simple. We're not looking at stuff that's heroic at all. The object here is to change nothing on the planet. Nothing needs changing. It is perfect exactly as it is. The only thing that needs to change on this entire planet is me. As my consciousness shifts with experience after experience, with glorious interaction after glorious interaction, what I see changes constantly. All the things that I thought were so incredibly true yesterday, I'm scratching myself. How did I ever get stuck believing that? When you have these wonderful epiphanies, enjoy them. Enjoy them. That's the truth of the minute. What it does for you is mark the point from which you can begin to go deeper, and go deeper, and go deeper. The next time you have a chance to speak to an elevated being from another density, ask them a question. What are you guys up to? Instead of what's in it for me, what's happening for you? What can I do for you? What is it you're looking at? And the answer that came down to me once when I asked Verna Yater, and she channels Indira, who's an exquisite being. She's been for me a great little teacher. Sorry about the little business. A great teacher. She said, well, we deal with many of the same things you look at, but what we look at seems to be far more subtle. And that triggered something interesting for me. If you watch our society today, compared to what it was in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and the 20s and earlier, there used to be a song in olden days, a glimpse of stockin' was look upon as something shocking, but heaven knows anything goes. And that was, anything goes, my God, how far back was that? Today, we become increasingly gross in what we consider to be viable entertainment, in the way we wage war, in the way we deal in relationships. At the time that I was growing up, I never even heard the concept of an abused child. I have no idea what it was. And now today, everybody's coming out of the closet telling horrific stories. I have no idea if they're true. I suppose they are. Look at the way we have completely deteriorated in our inability to appreciate the subtle. What it takes right now in our interactions with each other, how gross they become. If we could take the light that's coming from this room and spread it out throughout the entire planet, we'd all go home. Now, would you like to play a game and see who you really are?
Yes.
Okay. This is fun. Just become aware of sitting in the chair and get an idea of who you are right now. Uncross whatever you have crossed. Get a really good focus of who you are. For those of you that speak Japanese, gently say sayonara. For those of you that like Italian, ciao bella. Because that being will forever be changed and gone. Once you get a glimpse of who you really are, you'll start giggling. Allow your eyes to close and draw your awareness to the point of contact with your chair. Just be aware of sitting and aware of the weight that you feel there, the weight of the body. Become aware, too, of the sounds that you hear, the sound of my voice, the sound of the hum of the air conditioner, the gurglings of your body, or the shifting of the person next to you. Just sounds. Just be aware that they're there. Be aware of the faint play of light on the inside of your eyelids. Just be conscious of it. Doesn't mean anything, it's just simply there. Be aware, too, of the scent that you take in on the air of this room. Just notice its texture, the slight aroma that's there, the energy that floats in on it. And now just become aware of the position of the tongue in the mouth. Perhaps there's a residue of a taste of something you might have eaten a while back. Perhaps not. Just awareness. Now take your awareness and focus on your breath. Without changing it or managing it in any way, simply watch as it flows in and out of your body. Just be a point from which you become aware of your breath. Watch as it moves in and moves out. Become aware of your breath. Stay with the breath for a while. And when you feel you can anchor that point from which you're watching your breath and continue watching it move in and out of your body, holding that point, raise another point to the ceiling of this room. And from that point, become aware of the part of you that is aware of the breath. From a point on the ceiling of this room, become aware of the part of you that is aware of the breath. And now, holding those 2 points, move out to about 500 feet above the roof of this building. And from that point, 500 feet above the roof of this building, become aware of the part of you that is on the ceiling of this room, being aware of the part of you that is aware of the breath. From that point 500 feet above the roof of this building, be aware of the point of view on the ceiling of this room, being aware of the part of you that is aware of the breath. And holding those points, move out to the very edge of our solar system. And from there, be aware of the part of you that is 500 feet above the roof of this building, that is aware of the part of you that is on the ceiling of this room, that is aware of the part of you that is aware of your breath. All the way from the edge of our solar system, you're aware of the part of you that's 500 feet above the roof of this building, that is aware of the part of you that is on the ceiling of this room, that is aware of the part of you that is aware of your breath. You are that which is aware of being aware of being aware of being aware of being aware. Infinitely deep. You are pure awareness. Able to shift the point from which you view at will, able to focus your attention and intention with exquisite clarity. You are that which is aware of being aware of being aware. All of this is a grand illusion. All creation is a grand illusion. We are consummate game players, experiencing the infinity of being. Allow yourself to return to the room. Let yourself come back here. You're free to go back there at any single time you want. That's who you are. Focus on the heart. Just focus on the heart. We're given two extraordinary gifts on this planet that are so freely given that we overlook them as being valuable. The first is water. It is a crystalline solution that exists like a blank tape, a blackboard on which nothing is writ, that will magnify your intention beyond anything imaginable. If you want to play with water tonight, teach you a little trick. Anybody keep a dream journal? I invite you to start. I invite you to have the most incredible dreams that will help you connect with your higher self and unravel questions that you have. The technique is very simple. Go to bed with a question. Recite the question aloud. Have a drink of water and drink about a third of it. Put it down and get ready to have the ride of your life. Using water sacramentally like this. Excuse me. Sacramentally like this. Using water sacramentally enhances, magnifies intention. It does something to concretize and take out of the realms of iffy into something of this I really wish to experience. And simply adding water to it makes a massive difference. You can program water with any kind of intention imaginable. The stuff that Professor Moto does now is just one way of showing what it's like. But to have a water jug at home that doesn't say gratitude, love, and perfect health doesn't make sense. We all know about it, very few of us do it. We should have little stickers we put on every water bottle we get. Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. You buy those
Make
little...
them yourself.
You
There you go. Good girl.
One smart lady, thank you. Now, it's not that any of us here didn't know about it. Only one person did it. So let's follow this sweet lady and become the 100th monkey. And if we start walking around with this, then other people will start walking around with this, and this will start making a difference throughout all of Ashland. If Ashland finally gets it. Another one says, you have beautiful... A heart crystal. Put those words on it. Does it not make a phenomenal difference? It does. I spoke earlier about 3 words. I invite you all to go into any dictionary you want and pick 3 words. The 3 words that we will keep for all of eternity or until you change them. My 3 words are curiosity. Curiosity because that is the driving, impelling force behind all creation. Willingness, because whatever the universe asks of me, the answer is yes. And my 3rd word is humility. So I never for a second ever think it's coming from me. I have those words over my desk, and they act as filters through which I perceive. Those are the lenses I look through. Whichever ones you want. Gratitude is certainly a fantastic one. Love is a great one. Harmony is a great one. Whatever you want that works for you. Go inside, don't do it with the head. Let the heart come up with these 3 words for you. And I will promise you that they will irrevocably change the vibration of your life. Things that simple. Now, I said to you one time, let me just do some mopping up before we have to go home. Balancing, balancing, balancing. I really believe that the most vibrant, viable, palpable processing is done real time. There are a lot of wonderful processes that will take you back to. But what if you could have this extraordinary experience? We experienced with Master Shah the other day when he said, come here, I'm going to do something for you guys. Join this group. I'm going to clear your karma. And he cleared our karma. Ready or not, real or not, I can't even begin to say, but I assume it is. And all of a sudden, I find a negative thought coming up. And I say, my karma is completely clear. Do I want to start dirtying my laundry with this little thing? Interesting. And so I catch myself immediately because I want to keep this room clean as long as I possibly can. So we get into an incident. My best is road rage. I have the most incredibly sarcastic, covert road rage imaginable. Oh, come on, sweetheart, it's the pedal to the right.
She looked at me.
I mean, you know, in the privacy of your car while you're driving by yourself, your mind does all these judgmental things on every other driver in the road except you. So the trick is when it comes up, and I promise you it comes up, is to countervail it, to balance it, immediately put it on that seesaw, that teeter-totter we talked about. Well, come on, sweetheart. What is she going through? What is she perceiving? You know, maybe she's looking for something and she's lost, or he's looking for something and he's, I don't want to. Who let these people with Canadian plates into my town? Don't they drive in Canada? And then I say, my God, isn't it wonderful to have these people here who are appreciating the beauty of where we live? You know, and all the things that I can do to take that energy, which is clearly negative and judgmental, and hang on the other side of the teeter-totter something which is absolutely loving and embracing. As you do this, in order to do this, what you find is that you've got this point of view and this point of view. But in order to create this point of view, you have to move up here to see this and create this. So you're always creating for yourself a point outside of which you are acting. So let's call that point the watcher. That watches you go through and always balances in every instance. If you can become aware of your watcher, the part that is aware of the part of you that is watching what you're doing, you are on the road to ascension. I wish I could make it more complicated than that. It is that easy. As you move your awareness outside of the justification of doing what you're doing, apologizing for what you're doing, or judging what you're doing, you simply balance what you're doing and increase the points from which you're aware. My God, we could talk forever on a whole bunch of different things. But let's do the following thing if we may. Let's, as Ram Dass loves to say, he said, we've come to the time where you pretend that you have questions, and I'll pretend that I have answers. And if there's something you want to explore further or look at or touch upon, I'd be thrilled to explore it with you to the extent that I can. There are 3 exercises in the book. The first exercise I just told you, this is exactly balancing the chakras. A strawberry. Because what'll come up will always, all perception comes from the root chakra upwards. So any single time something triggers a reaction, any emotional reaction, even if it's utter joy, that gets balanced as well. Anything which throws you out of absolute equilibrium gets balanced. Being in a constant state of glee is not a great way to go through life. You want to absolutely be balanced all the time. Don't be judgmental saying, this is good, this is bad, I'm going to balance the bad, not the good. Balance anything that you perceive as an emotional reaction. As information comes up, it'll start with the survival of the lower chakra. Immediately, if you feel threatened, put that on the seesaw and figure out how to balance it. Now, there's a tremendous trick here. And this is something I only discovered very, very recently because of something that someone said. And I went, I'm going to try that. So I invite you to try this. Whenever you feel an emotional reaction, notice you always have a thought attached to it. Feeding on the thought amplifies not only the amplitude of the emotional reaction, the intensity, but the duration of it. Next time you have one, get into the emotion. Feel the emotion fully. Absolutely hold on to the emotion and separate out all thought. You're not interested in the thought, in the justification. You're only interested in the physical feeling of the emotion. Now, I try to use my focus as much as I can. The longest I've been able to hold so far is 30 seconds. Imagine emotions going away that quickly. Now you're in a position to take this and balance. Take and balance, take and balance. The more you do that, the more you will begin to clean out the chakras. Don't go fishing in Chakraville for what you think is the thing you need to be working on. Allow the universe to present it to you. As soon as you set this intention as a practice, the universe at your higher level will bring you all the things you need as your old triggers. And you'll find your life has been the same wallpaper patterns, knee-jerk reactions, as are all earthlings. We're earthlings, we're here. So we have the same reactions. But as we refine the points from which we view, what we perceive changes all the time. To quote, I wish he were my mentor, but he is a god in my heart, Albert Einstein, said, no problem can ever be solved at the same level of consciousness that created it. So all the stuff down here, all the organizations striving for, working towards, are meaningless. We have to increase the level of perception into a higher level of consciousness that can easily clean this up. We have no chance at this stage of our being of reversing global warming. It ain't going to happen. It's just too far gone for a lot of reasons, not most of which, from what I am told, is human engendered. We like to blame it on the CFCs and a lot of other stuff. We're going through that intense ban we spoke of. But cleaning this up from a higher level of consciousness is done in a day and a quarter. That's only because they stopped at the Dairy Queen. So we can't, I mean, it's wonderful to work towards this and be aware of it, but be conscious of the fact that every wonderful cause that pulls at your heartstrings could potentially be a red herring that keeps you from evolving into your own higher being. Our job is to break the 4-minute mile barrier, to become the 100th monkey, to show the way, to hold that portal open, and be the energy of love that transforms this planet.
Okay, this question may not have an answer. So if you have one, I'm going to be amazed. The question is this: if absolute nothingness is infinite absence of material things, of mass, then how can we have infinite space? If there isn't anything, why do we even have infinite space? for something to be missing?
Believe it or not, that's one of the key questions of the book. There's a place in the book where Larry, the character, meets his higher self. And the higher self, there's a chapter called The Ultimate Proposition. And the ultimate proposition goes like this. Give me absolutely everything you have, and I pledge to give you absolutely nothing in return, and you shall have the better of the bargain. Now, that's the same question you're asking. He deals with this in many, many ways, trying to work out how to make this particular decision. And he deals with it, as you're asking, in the intellectual realm, thinking he's made the decision. And the decision is remade several times at higher and higher and higher levels as he gets to those higher and higher levels. So you're asking an incredibly intriguing question. The answer exists not in the mind, but in the heart. When you have nothing, you have everything. When you see the oneness of all there is no scarcity, there is no separation. That only comes in the nothingness. When you put physical constraints on it and ask it in words that make sense in the English language, you end up in paradox. And I've come to realize, and it's a very strange realization, there's only two things in the world. There's either belief or paradox. It's a very strange realization. It's driving me bonkers. But it's really an interesting perception. If it can be resolved, it's belief. Everything our science is based on is axiomatic belief. Any of the laws we have that we try to resolve the physical issues of creation are belief. When they end, as much quantum mechanics ends in paradox, now we're in the field, in Rumi's field. Beyond the right and the wrong, there's a field. I will meet you there. The ineffable cannot be expressed. That's the field we need to learn to play in for the sheer joy of it. There are three injunctions you read about in the book as well, which I borrowed very freely from Brew Joy, who talks about a lady that was walking along the beach, and as she walked, she saw that every footprint she took glowed with a phosphorescence, green phosphorescence. She heard this booming voice says, I give you three injunctions. Don't compare, give up judgment, and delete the need to understand. So the book picks us up and plays with it as well. Those are the three things that get us in trouble. What we ask when our mind wants to know is what we're saying is, this is what I believe. How does this reinforce what I believe? If it doesn't reinforce what I believe, if there isn't a tonal resonance, then I'm rejecting it. The words cannot adequately form what is trying to flow here tonight. Remember the CYA stuff at the beginning. If it can be spoken or written, it isn't. If one man asks of the Tao and another explains, neither understands. This is stuff only of the heart. So if you walk away with anything tonight, let it be the residue of energy, not the residue of knowledge. There is no knowledge here. This is only to learn to trust your own inner being as source, and not think that anybody who happens to have a lavalier microphone and has written a book has anything to teach you other than to support you on your journey to be the absolute perfect individual, unique in all of creation, feeding the cosmic hologram with your grandeur. That's what it's all about. Again, for those of you who want books, they'll be in back. I think I'm going to donate 3 to the library, so they'll be here if you want them. The first 2 chapters are freely available on the website. Normally, we ask you to sign up. If you want to receive irregular newsletters with articles, I'm happy to send them to you. We don't share that with anybody else. You can do that right on the website as well if you don't do it tonight here. It's Going Deeper, which is the title of the book. And if you get the full second chakra implications of it, you'll understand why it's goingdeeper.org. What else do you need to know? Not a lot. I write. I'm a featured columnist for UPI, United Press International, Religion and Spirituality Forum, and I post an article a week for them. It gets sent out worldwide. That's also on the website. The website, again, is goingdeeper.org or prismhouse, Prism house.com. Enjoy the site. There's tons of material there. Places you can play and read and look at and draw little pictures and connect dots and all sorts of fantastic things. There's even some great shots of space as seen by old Mother Hubble that are quite majestic. I mean, we do wonderful things here. Namaste. I love you more than I can say. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your heart and your energies with us.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax-deductible. This recording is not copyrighted, and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.